afternoon, everyone, and hello. My name is Rich Longo, and I'll be your host for today's presentation. And thank you for joining us for another Flycast Partners webinar. Today's webinar is BMC RemedyForce and BMC Client Management working together, presented by Flycast Partners' own Kyle Hamilton. Kyle is a software engineer for Flycast Partners with over 25 years of experience in the IT service management space. His career started as a network engineer for Pro Systems and was quickly hired by Network Associates as a professional services consultant, where he delivered ITSM solutions around the world for thousands of customers. Kyle's primary focus is on ITIL processes and architecture. He has extensive knowledge of CMDB and asset management projects, and also deals with automation and management solutions such as a BMC Client Manager and BMC Discovery. Kyle has been a certified consultant for Front Range, Peregrine Software, BMC RemedyForce, Service Desk Express, BMC Discovery, BMC Client Management, as well as being ITIL certified in a Microsoft MCSE and many others. Before we get started, Kyle, let me introduce our organization. Flycast Partners is here to deliver a seriously amazing IT experience, founded and staffed by personnel that have many years of experience in IT space. We took the best ideas from these collective experiences and added the best components necessary to grow and become a leading value-added reseller in the North American IT market. We offer best-in-class implementation services and training in ITSM, ITEM, and workload automation spaces using ITIL best practice. Our professional services can easily scale up or down in order to meet the IT needs of any customer, regardless of size, complexity, or budgetary restrictions. We offer implementation services both on-site and remote, as well as training to reinforce your organization's long-term IT success. Our ongoing administration support service offerings will enable your organization to focus on your normal day-to-day operations, saving you both time and money. I encourage you to visit our website at www.flycastpartners.com, or feel free to reach out to us directly at 844-FLYCAST. That's 844-359-2278. As you're already aware, I'm sure, this is just one of many weekly webinars that we offer here at Flycast Partners. I encourage you to take a look at our webinar page and sign up for the next webinar that fits you or your coworkers. Please take time to invite them as well. Utilize our website for researching industry white papers, data sheets, training that is available from ITIL to ITSM tools, assistance with your professional services or enterprise service management. We encourage you to poke around a little and reach out to us directly with any questions that you may have with our live chat box. Monitored during normal working hours, you have an opportunity to chat with someone live from Flycast Partners. During today's presentation, I encourage you to enter any questions that you may have in the Q&A section of this WebEx. Any time that we have remaining towards the end of the day, Kyle Hamilton will try to answer as many of those questions as he possibly can. Should we run out of time, you can simply email your questions to us at info@flycastpartners.com, or once again, reach out to us at 844-FLYCAST. That's 844-359-2278. I once again would like to welcome Kyle Hamilton, our host for today's presentation. It's on you, Kyle.
Okay, thank you, Rich. Before I get going, can you hear me okay, Rich?
I hear you fantastic, and your screen looks great. Okay,
thank you. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's presentation. Glad to have you with us and take the time out of your day. Today, we'll be covering the topic of the integration between RemedyForce and BMC's Client Management solution. The first part I'd like to talk about in terms of the integration is really the purpose for the integration, and there's really multiple purposes. The first of which would be ultimately the assistance in populating and creating configuration items and assets that are in your environment into the RemedyForce CMDB. For those that are unfamiliar with RemedyForce, or maybe familiar with RemedyForce but haven't started populating or using the CMDB as of yet, the CMDB is a part of RemedyForce out of the box. However, Client Management can assist you and take over some of what's typical manual entry that's required to create assets or configuration items in here, where you're having to populate fields of information, whether it be serial numbers, asset tags, host names, etc., manually, and help automate that process for you so that you can keep the CMDB more accurate, more up to date, and populated with a current list of assets as they sit on the network, enabling you to manage this with a lot fewer resources and a lot less time and effort. So that would be the first reason for having the integration, would be to assist in populating all of this information that you see here. The second part of the integration would be to provide a simple way to give users of RemedyForce access to the tools and capabilities within Client Management, in many cases without having to deal with multiple interfaces, multiple login accounts, having to flip back and forth between tools. In the case of the CMDB manager or your asset manager or administrator, it also provides them with the ability through this interface to directly launch into Client Management if they, from this perspective, if they needed to log in and make a change to the Client Management application itself, maybe kick off or run a new discovery process, change a software deployment or the way something behaves. And you'll notice it provides a little icon at the top of the CMDB window and allows them to cross-launch easily from the CMDB view inside of RemedyForce directly into the Client Management console, so that they can come in and make the necessary changes within Client Management, so that those are then visible and available to users within RemedyForce. So this is kind of the behind-the-scenes piece where the administrator might work or spend their time actually going through and building the asset discovery processes and making sure that it's capturing everything so that that CMDB is being populated on a daily or regular basis and is as accurate and up to date as possible. And it does that not only by providing the icon, but also by providing seamless identity and login, so that you're not having to authenticate. It understands that this user's logged in as administrator of RemedyForce, therefore they automatically have administrative access to the Client Management tool without getting stopped and prompted for another password and ID. So it provides kind of a seamless melding of the two applications. Because they're both BMC solutions, they were able to tightly integrate it, not simply just bringing over data from one database to the other, but actually starting to integrate the interfaces together and make it seamless for the administrator. Now, the real meat of the integration, however, comes in from your users and your staff that are working in RemedyForce, not necessarily just the asset or the CMDB administrator. And that's visible for users when they're actually working on and responding to requests, changes, problems, incidents, really anything that they're working on in RemedyForce that might require them to be able to reach out and affect a change on the device, not simply capturing information related to the device, but actually being able to automate a change, whether that's automate a patch, automate a piece of software to be deployed, whatever the case may be. I'm going to walk through a couple of examples and kind of demonstrate what I mean by that and how that would potentially look in your environment. So to do that, I'm going to flip over and I'm logged into the RemedyForce self-service console here, and we're going to go through a couple of examples. One, we'll take a basic incident. Right, so we'll have a user go through, and in this case, we'll say this user's having email issues related to their desktop machines. And so real simple, I have a problem with my desktop, submit the incident, off we go. Now, I'm also going to go through and have this user request a piece of software. This is quite typical in a lot of environments, excuse me, whether it's enterprise software, something like Microsoft Office, whether it's free software, unlicensed, like Firefox browser, Google Chrome, Adobe Acrobat Reader, whatever the case may be, so that you can not only publish and make those requests available in self-service and make it easy for them to be able to submit those requests through this portal, but then by virtue of the fact that we have client management integrated in, being able to automate this process so it doesn't become simply a request that has to be then escalated or shipped off to desktop support teams or level 2, level 3, so that they have to log in somewhere and actually push a button or pull a lever to deploy the software, instead being able to automate that delivery all the way out to the desktop. So you'll notice in the details or the instructions of the request up at the top, it actually notifies the user that the software will be automatically deployed in this case, which is one of the reasons why I'm able to do something like promise a 1-hour turnaround time on a request like this, whereas if I was dealing with simply taking this information in and having to escalate this to desktop support team or to a level 2 support team, there's probably almost no chance that you're going to be able to meet any kind of turnaround time that's that quick. But by virtue of the fact that we can automate it, you're able to not only improve the service level to the customer, but you're able to take a lot of load and a lot of added response off of those level 2, level 3, escalate support teams, so that those are, one less or hopefully a lot less tickets that they have to deal with, and instead be able to automate those using the client management tool. So if I flip back over here to RemedyForce, while I'm here on the service request tab, we'll go ahead and address the service request component of this. If I refresh the console here, I'll see that my Firefox request has come in. And you'll notice one thing before I even take a look at the request is that the status of the request is already resolved. So in most cases, and I'll say many cases, requests like Firefox, Adobe Acrobat, smaller packages that don't have complex or lengthy installation processes associated with them. In most of those cases, those will be resolved before a user even has the opportunity to pull those up in the console and take a look at them, so that before it even becomes something that they start looking at and trying to figure out what's going on, we've already addressed the requirement of the need, in this case, deploying the actual software out to the desktop. So you can see it's automatically kicked off a task, notified client management of the request. That's been completed and marked off successfully, and in turn, it's automatically resolved. And you can take that a step further and then go ahead and notify the user of resolution through workflow. Send them an email to let them know that it should be on their desktop and everything should be ready to go. But if not, maybe call the service desk back and we'll figure out what's going on or try and help you out, make sure the software is installed properly. But in that manner, you're able to accomplish, again, meeting those service level targets. So again, I promised in this case a 1-hour response, and ultimately I've given myself a little more room and said, give me 4 hours to ultimately resolve this in case there's a problem with the automated install for whatever reason. But you'll notice that the SLA clocks are already stopped because it is in a resolved state. So if everything does go according to plan and the software does get installed as the user requested, and we hope, then you're able to, you can see in this case, I promise an hour, and I'm able to far undercut that by actually delivering the software in right about just 1 minute. So being able to go from a user request in the portal, I need this piece of software, to actually having that software sitting on the desktop, shortcut, start menu item, whatever the case may be, in a couple of minutes, is a tremendous value to not only the service desk, but again to the customers in terms of being able to get up and operate quickly rather than waiting for manual response. So that's one example of how you can take client management and take a tremendous workload off of your staff, so that when they come in and look at this console, I've got customers that have taken this to the extreme in many cases, and I'd say anywhere from about 80 to 90% of the tickets that they have submitted or received are automatically resolved in this console before they even have a chance to look at it. And in most cases, they'll even create a list view or drop down that's going to filter out those resolved tickets. So not only are they already resolved, but they never even really see them. You kind of run in the background, and unless there's a problem and somebody does pick up the phone and call, it's one less thing you have to look at, one less thing you have to deal with. Now, if we flip gears then and talk about just the typical break-fix issue, it also provides a tight integration and some tools that will allow your IT staff to be able to respond to these issues in kind of a one-off fashion, where it's not something you're going to be able to anticipate. It's just, email issues, internet connectivity problems. I can't get Microsoft Office to open, whatever the case may be. And so the integration into client management, again, helps in two ways for this situation. Number one, as these tickets come in, it allows you to not only identify, who the requester or submitter of that ticket is, but also to allow you to be able to associate a specific asset or configuration item with the incident that we're dealing with. So in this case, I can get a list of those assets that are associated with that user by virtue of the fact that they're being populated into the CMDB through client management. Again, by the fact that we've got client management making sure that that list is continually getting updated and continually running discoveries on the network and making sure that we know everything that's out there, then I have confidence that when I go to link an asset or an item to the ticket, that I'm looking at everything, as of that latest discovery run that's out there and assigned to this user, so that I can either make that determination on my own, or if I'm calling the user back to work on a resolution with them, ask them, is this related to your desktop? Is it your laptop machine? Which device are we actually talking about here? So that can become part of the ticket. And that'll give you not only another level of reporting that's available, so you can track, incidents by device, incidents by model, incidents by vendor, by virtue of the fact that we have that information linked to the incident. But it also enables the user then to be able to leverage that client management agent on that device, or I should say, if you link a device to this incident that has the client management agent, then it enables me to go to the Agent Tools menu and pull up a list of actions or activities that I can perform on that device. Now, if you don't have client management, or you don't have the agent installed on the particular device you've linked to the incident or request or change or whatever it may be, then it'll simply provide a pop-up window that says no actions available, no capabilities on this device, rather than bringing up this window. In this case, because I do have the agent installed on this particular machine, it allows me to access an actions menu up here at the top left-hand corner. So perhaps, number one, I just need to take a deeper look into the configuration of the device itself. So from here, it pops up in a window. I can see the hardware configuration, memory, hard drive, etc. I can review the installed software, determine what's on the device, maybe prompt the user or ask the user, which application are you having a problem with, or what version are we talking about, their license status, what they're licensed for, so we know not only what's installed, but what are they licensed to use and have, security details related to things like firewall status turned on and enabled, do they have antivirus installed and up to date, things like that, so you can evaluate the security stance. You can track financial details in terms of cost, residual value, warranty dates, expirations, things like that, as well as having access to a history list or action list that will provide details on exactly what's been executed on this desktop over time. So if you are deploying software, if you're deploying patches, if you're making corrective changes to the devices, being able to get a list of all of those updates and changes that have been made. So you can use that as a potential point where you start your investigation if your user's having a problem. Now, beyond the simple inventory, you may find through this review of the detailed configuration, you may find the problem. You may uncover it's, they've got an out-of-date version of software, or there's a they lack the memory, or they're almost out of hard drive space, whatever the case may be, just by reviewing the details in the tabs provided. From here, if you determine that there was something that you may be able to correct or fix yourself as that user, then you could just simply launch into a remote control session. So again, if you're on the phone with a customer, you might just tell them, I think I know what the problem is. It may be something I can fix. And the staff user can then kick off a remote control session to the user's device here from the console. Tell them to sit back, give me just a second, I'm going to log in and, check out a couple things, maybe make an alteration. And it just launches me to the user's desktop, so I can go, log into the device and take care of whatever it is that I feel that I might be able to accomplish. You've got a toolbar up at the top, provides a standard, set of functionality in terms of being able to send keystrokes or transfer files between one device and another if I needed to provide a piece of software to them that they don't have, all the typical remote control functionality. So I could just simply log in and either follow along with what the user's doing, watch to make sure that they're performing the right set of steps to accomplish their goal, or I could just simply take over and make some kind of corrective change through the remote control interface myself. In the case where you don't want or need to take over remote control of the device, or in the case where you're dealing with a user that may be over a slow internet connection, on the other side of the globe, one of the benefits of client management, it doesn't require users to be in the office on the network or dialed up via VPN or connected via VPN. So this user may be in an airport terminal, on the other side of the world in Tokyo or some far-off location. So in those cases where you're dealing with somebody that may be in a distant location, slow connection, slow link, you might simply not want to pass all of that screen refresh information back and forth. In those cases, you could utilize what's called direct actions. So you have access to their file system to be able to transfer those files back and forth through this interface as opposed to the remote control interface. So again, it saves the time and hassle of having to pass the screen data, save the bandwidth, but still give me the same capability on the end user device so that I can get them the files that are necessary, but I don't have to take over their screen or lock them out or allow them to even see what's going on if I don't want them to. You can go into the registry, you can pull up their event log viewer and see what's going on in Windows events or application events. Well, this will allow me to go in and actually create new registry keys, update a value in an existing key. I've got all the capabilities I would have if I was running regedit on the local desktop via remote control, for example. So I could update their registry if need be. I might need to shut down a running process that may be killing their machine or taking over the processor. Same thing with services. So all of these direct actions provide me with the ability to go directly to the device through here and stop and start what needs to be or make any corrective changes without going through the full-on remote control session. In the cases where you are dealing with something that may require a more complex fix, whether it simply is something that I as a user am unfamiliar with, exactly what the fix is. Maybe I know what needs to be done, but I don't have the skills or the knowledge to be able to perform it. Or maybe I don't have the permissions or capability to access the tools or access the scripts that need to be run to perform those actions. And that's a situation where you can also create what's referred to as advanced actions. They're available in the drop-down menu here on the left. They're also available in this little pop-out window on the right. And that way, users, or I should say the administrator of client management, can actually go into that client management interface we looked at a moment ago, and they can actually build and create and then make available to me as a staff user some of those fixes, whether they be applications that they provided so that I can deploy them from here myself, whether they be uninstalls of applications that maybe need to be performed on a regular basis, or any any real kind of command or list of commands that you find would be helpful for the service desk to have. They could even, update inventory from here manually, being able to kick off a software inventory or collect, that hardware inventory in the case where maybe it's been close to 24 hours since the last discovery scan has been run. So when I look at the information related to this device and I look at that inventory summary, it's up at the top. Maybe I determine that, it's out of date, or simply want to make sure that this information, is current. Now I've got a refresh here, so I can refresh this information just by, kicking it off here in the interface, causing it that way. I could also kick off a more specific update to inventory through those scripted commands. So that way, if you want to make that available, you can allow the users as they call in to make sure that they're looking at the most accurate, up-to-date information by giving them access to commands like that. They can be peripheral commands. You want to shut down USB ports. You want to reset their Wi-Fi, update their antivirus for them if they're unfamiliar with how to do that. Lock their device, shut it down. You've got the capability to provide to these users now through this menu a whole list of commands that they can now use and employ to be able to make these corrective changes and fixes very easily. So in this case, maybe it's as simple as something as maybe they find that there's an application or some piece of software that's been installed on the machine or is running on the machine that's causing some kind of an incompatibility or some kind of issue with their email. So maybe I just simply need to go in and kick off this script to disable this offending application on the desktop. One of the other added benefits of the integration between Client Management and RemedyForce is not only having access to all of these tools and capabilities through this UI, but by virtue of the fact that it automatically updates and keeps all of this action and activity documented for me in the ticket itself. So as I come back here and go back to my incident form, which is just sitting right behind my window, if I go over to the details tab for this request, you'll notice that when I reload this, it shows me that I initiated a remote control session to this device. It shows me that I kicked off, actually twice by mistake, this disable command to shut down this offending application. So not only can your staff users, leverage those scripted commands and leverage all of those activities from that single pane of glass in RemedyForce, but they don't have to spend time documenting it or recording it, or more likely, you don't have to worry about the fact that they're not documenting or recording it, and you've got a complete audit trail of what's been done and what kind of activities were performed without having to wait or rely on the user to come back into the details and add those actions and create those tasks manually. Through the integration, we can automatically record all that activity and have it there. So if you need to report on it, if there's a problem down the road, you can easily pull that audit trail back up and see exactly what was executed and what was done. But that way you take, again, some added workload off of IT staff, and that they're not going to have to spend time doing documentation after the fact. So in most cases, again, if you're on the phone with the customer working through this issue, you've maybe remote controlled in, you've looked at the details for the device, kicked off the commands, asked them at this point, is everything working? Are you able to get your email working? And if everything's functioning correctly, then your resolution may be something as simple as remote controlled. Shut down the app, right? And from here, I can just go into my quick closure process. Oh, I've got to reload this. Go in my closure. Let's say remote shut down. And go into my closure process for this ticket. And in order to be able to make all those changes, to affect all of those changes, deploying software, making some corrective fix, remote control, and they're able to do it all within the RemedyForce console right here from the incident form or problem or change or whatever they might be on. So it makes it easy. It makes it seamless to be able to pass back and forth. You've got all the audit trail information, documentation you need in terms of what was done. And they're able to quickly close this out and, go right back to their list and, pick up the next request. And hopefully in that case, they're able again to be able to use client management in some capacity to be able to effect a fix or effect some resolution for the next customer down the path. So even if they're not automatically resolved, in the case of like a software request, for example, still being able to automate fixes out to the user desktop so that it doesn't become a burdensome process or a very manual process. And obviously, the more time and effort is spent building up those scripted commands and making that functionality available, the more and more your staff can resolve those first level calls, those first line calls on the first call, so that your first call resolution percentage should shoot way up, and that by virtue of the fact that they have access to those kind of tools, they can now handle and address 80–90% of everything that's asked of them, rather than simply having to take the information in, create the ticket, and then send it up the chain to somebody else. It stops here, which of course is one of the reasons, one of the big, or I should say the big impetus for those level 2 and level 3 support teams to make those actions available, those scripts and commands available, is that everything that they provide to the level 1 support team here means that that's one less call that they have to deal with. That's one less ticket that gets escalated to them. It's one less request that they have to log into client management and respond to. So that's their reason for making those things available, is the more they push down to level 1, that's just one fewer ticket that lands on their plate somewhere down the road. And again, by virtue of the fact that you have all of this information in the CMDB coming from client management, when it comes time to running reports, when it comes to looking at dashboards and getting metrics out of RemedyForce, you're able to pull up an asset dashboard like this that can show you, what you have in your environment in terms of different types of assets, what kind of status are they in, age, based upon date in service and things like that. You're able to track those warranty expirations and start tracking things by model, right? Which devices are causing me the most problems? Is it my laptops? Is it my Dell machines? Is it my IBM, systems? Whatever the case may be. So that kind of information becomes important when you start talking about renewing support contracts, when you start looking at making new hardware purchases down the road, because you're linking those assets with the ticket, and because they're being populated by client management, you've got the ability to start breaking things down by model and by vendor and by machine. Some of that, this asset management dashboard is out of the box, but in most cases, many environments, I'll say, many of these graphs and reports you see on the desktop are simply blank, because there's no data in the CMDB to link to, number one, and because without that data in there, of course, they're not able to link them to the incidents and the problems and changes as they get created. The CMDB dashboard, as you see here, starts breaking that down even further. So I can see, the top 5 items by the number of incidents that they're generating. Could be servers, could be, switches, in the case of the Cisco Catalyst switch. Everything I do within RemedyForce becomes associated with some item or some asset that's sitting there in the CMDB, so that I'm able to then start breaking down the work effort and everything that I'm doing in the service from a service desk perspective based on the assets that I'm actually supporting. So, incidents, problems, changes, service level issues, everything that I see now can now be broken down by, model and vendor and asset. So this is what I mean when I say it provides a whole other level of reporting that you can get to within RemedyForce when you start having that data available in the CMDB, and you start associating it with each and every task and change and record that you create. You can now start breaking down all of those modules to see where are you really spending your time, and do we really want to purchase, another 200 of this laptop, or do we want to keep buying from this particular vendor because look at what it's doing to our call volumes. That's some valuable information to have in terms of being able to drive those purchasing process and make those renewal decisions that come the end of the year or the first of the year when you start linking this type of information in. So with that, I know I've given us left about 10 minutes, or probably about 10 minutes by my clock for any questions that anyone might have. So please feel free to chime in or type into the chat window or Q&A window if you have them, and we'll try and knock them out.
We actually have a couple of questions, Kyle. The first question is, does the discovery run on a daily basis, command basis, or does it have an agent that is constantly updating the CMDB? And does the Agentless Discovery also provide a software compliance?
Okay. The first part of that, the short answer would be it's completely configurable. You can do both agentless scanning and agent-based scanning. The agentless scanning doesn't provide near the level of detail that the agent does. You won't be able to get all the hardware breakdown. You won't be able to get all the software license details with the agentless scan, but it can tell you what's on the network, what's plugged in and out there with a heartbeat. That's the primary purpose of the agentless discovery, is just simply to create a master list, so you know what you have to deal with. Then you can go back to review that master list the agentless scan creates or provides you, and then from there determine which of those devices do you want to deploy an agent to. So you can actually manage it and start to then get that deeper level of inventory information. You don't have to deploy it to every one of them. You might not be interested in some of them or responsible for some of them. That way you can use that agentless scan to determine what's out there, what you care about, what is there an agent for. Obviously the agentless scan could pick up a whole host of devices, everything from, if you look at the CMDB window I had earlier, in the agentless scan you'll get everything from switches to routers to voice over IP phones, to network printers, a whole host of devices, none of those which have a client management agent that you can install. So there's a lot of assets, a lot of configuration items that you'll pick up with the agentless scan, but that's as far as you're going to have the capability of going. So again, it's another benefit of having the agentless, is it's still going to tell you about all of those devices like the IP phones and the switches, and give you some high-level information, even though there's not an agent to install that'll allow you to manage and control it and go deeper than this. But for all of those devices that you can, all your Windows machines, your Linux devices, Unix machines, Macs, from here, they could go into an agent rollout and push that agent out to this device from here. So I can bring it under management or into the fold, so to speak, so that I can do remote control. I have all those capabilities from the incident form like we saw, the direct access tools, and all the scripted commands, etc. And that also gives me that deeper look at the inventory, both of which are scheduled. So the agentless discovery could run every hour, it could run every day, it could run once a week, once a month. Same thing for the agent-based. It's entirely up to you in terms of, how often do I need to update this asset? How interested am I? How I guess, dynamic do I feel like the information is? You don't want to scan it every day or, every hour. Obviously, if it's, you look at it every hour for the next week and nothing changes, you could obviously back that off to once a week, take the load off the network, take the, the scanning load off the device, even though it's minimal. And back those off to once a week. So usually customers will base the schedule on criticality. You might want to keep a tight watch on a certain group of devices, so you want to scan them more frequently. Others may be less critical, less important, have less of an impact if they go out or you lose them. And so it may be okay just to keep watch on them once a week or once a month. So you can schedule both of those. Rich, there was a second part to that question. Can you repeat that for me?
Absolutely. And does the Agentless Discovery also provide software compliance?
Yeah. No, it does not. So with the Agentless Discovery, essentially with Agentless, there is no management capability at all. So what you get with the Agentless scan is really pretty much what you see here on this discovery screen here. It shows me some high-level details. What you'll notice, if I look at the inventory tabs for this device, like the hardware and software, you'll notice they're completely blank, no population whatsoever. And that's because the agent's not on there yet. Not only do I not have the detailed inventory, but I don't have any capacity to push patches or applications or track software license compliance like I can once I get the agent on the box. So that's all going to be agent. Anything you want to do in terms of managing the device or going any deeper than really those high-level details that you see at the top of the screen, tells you kind of what it is, vendor, model, IP address, MAC address, things like that. You're going to need to get an agent on the box so that it gives you that level of control.
Okay, and another question, will the client management also find mobile devices in my environment, or is that a separate module?
Good question. Well, it used to be separate as of the latest update to client management, which is this 12.5 release we're looking at here. It does include mobile device management. Now, when I say it includes it, there's a couple little asterisks to that. Number one, as of today, the mobile device discovery will allow you to discover all of your mobile devices. So you'll see there's Windows, Android, iOS, BlackBerry, you name it. Anything you have out there, again, it's connected to the network, you'll be able to discover. That's simply a part of, and let me just, I guess, provide a little more information there. Client management is kind of different than RemedyForce. RemedyForce is an all-in model where you get the CMDB and incident and asset management, everything is all one license. With client management, it enables you to a la carte different features. So discovery, for instance, is one module. Some customers, that's all they're interested in is discovery. Whether it's agentless or agent-based, they come together. But it doesn't provide you then with the ability to deploy software packages or patches or things like that if you don't need it and don't license it. But when you get the discovery module, you're going to get both, essentially just discovery of anything on the network, mobile, printers, switches, desktops, laptops, servers, everything. Now, when it comes to actually managing these devices, you also have the capacity to manage mobile devices. The management of the mobile devices, however, is, number one, it's limited to iOS as of the current release. Android support is coming in the next release, which is probably about maybe 4 or 5 months away. I'd say sometime in the spring. And of course, in order to be able to do mobile device management, by that I mean, being able to lock the device down, control what Wi-Fi network they connect to, email accounts they can, connect to, et cetera. That comes along with the compliance module that was mentioned in the previous question. So if you license compliance within client management and discovery is kind of that foundational module. You have to have discovery before you can really do anything else on top of it, like patch or compliance. But if you're licensed for discovery and compliance, then you'll have that full capability on your iOS devices. You can discover everything. You can manage your iOS devices by virtue of the fact that you have compliance. And again, Android will be coming shortly. I don't know if they're going to go any further beyond Android. It's typically based on, market share and customer requests. I can tell you definitively those two will be tackled. Whether they are pretty sure you're not going to see BlackBerry coming up anytime soon, if ever. Windows Mobile is kind of on the fence, but at least down the road, that you'll be able to both discover anything but manage your iOS and Android devices through the same tool. Any other questions, Rich?
No, there aren't any other questions, but I do encourage you folks to go ahead and simply email us or call us directly at info@flycastpartners.com or call us at 844-FLYCAST. That's 844-359-2278. I have put that information in the chat box for you to make it easy for you. And Kyle, I have to say I'm pretty impressed with the crowd we had today, considering it's right before Christmas. I wouldn't have expected this number of people for this. I want to thank all of you for taking time out of your day to join us, knowing that most of you are about in holiday mode. So thank you. And Kyle, thank you for the great presentation today.
You're very welcome. I appreciate everybody's time. Have a great day and a great holiday.
All right. Merry Christmas to everyone. We'll see you in the new year.
you.